Okay, we got a huge game in Baltimore this Saturday afternoon. It's the 10-4 Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Baltimore to play the 9-5 Ravens. And this game could decide the AFC North Championship. Pittsburgh has already clinched a playoff berth, and Baltimore can clinch a playoff berth with the win on Saturday. The Steelers come to town with a plus 18 turnover ratio that's tied with the Bills for the best mark in the NFL. Key reason why the Steelers are on top of the North. Pittsburgh was on a 5-game winning streak, but in the last 4 games, they're 2-2, and they're kind of struggling on offense without their big play wide receiver, George Pickens. The Baltimore Ravens had a bye week, and they got healthy. And then they just went to the New York Giants and won 35-14 in convincing fashion. The Steelers have beaten the Ravens 4 straight times, and they've won 8 out of the last 9 games. Pittsburgh has no trouble going to Baltimore. They've won the last 4 outings in Baltimore. The Steelers have had an upper hand. They seem to have solved the Ravens. Both teams run the rock. The Baltimore Ravens are second in the NFL with 178 yards a game. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 10th. They average 127 yards a game. Both of these teams are committed to running it. They run the ball over 30 attempts per game. But both teams stop the run. The Baltimore Ravens have the number 1 rushing defense in football, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have the 4th ranked rushing defense in football. So they both like to run it, and they can both stop the run. One of the big reasons why they're playing for the AFC North title. Pittsburgh won the previous meeting this season. In Pittsburgh, that was an 18-16 slugfest. It was an ugly game for the Raven offense. They had a season-low 16 points, a season-low in yards. They committed 12 penalties, holding calls, false starts, ineligible men downfield. They were sloppy. They turned it over 3 times and missed 2 field goals. That's got to change when the Steelers come to town. Lamar Jackson, only 16 out of 33. He had 3 balls batted at the line of scrimmage. He was sacked twice. And the time of possession, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the ball over 36 minutes, and Baltimore only had it for 23 minutes and some change. Derrick Henry is 0-4 all-time against the Steelers. He has not had his best outings either. He had 65 yards and a fumble in that 18-16 loss earlier this season. Lamar Jackson is only 1-4 in his career against these Steelers. It's the one team that seems to have solved the great Lamar Jackson. Only a 66 quarterback rating, 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Can he solve this Steeler defense? Keep an eye on the TJ Watt factor. Watt hurt his ankle against the Philadelphia Eagles. He's questionable for this game. You better do your due diligence on Watt's health, because in 15 games against the Baltimore Ravens, 17 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. He's had at least 1 sack against Baltimore in the last 9 outings. So he is a critical part of the Steelers' success against Baltimore. 2 well-known kickers in this game. Chris Boswell of the Steelers having one of the great years in NFL history. He's 38 for 41 and 11 out of 13 from 50 yards or more. Justin Tucker of the Ravens, although he's the number 1 accurate kicker in NFL history, he's only 19 for 27, and he's only 6 for 12 in his last 7 games. And he missed 2 of them against the Steelers in that 2-point loss earlier this year. Some injuries to keep an eye on. This is big. Baltimore appears to be a healthy team right now, but the Steelers have 6 guys you better do some work on before you do anything with this game. TJ Watt with the ankle. Larry Ogunjobi, very good defensive lineman, did not play last week with the groin. He's been on the practice field, but he's questionable. Deshaun Elliott, second leading tackler, did not play last week. He's an outstanding safety and a big part of this Steeler defense. Dante Jackson left the game last week with a back injury. He's a really good corner. George Pickens, their number 1 receiver, their number 1 vertical threat. He's been out the last 2 weeks. And Justin Fields, a strategic situational quarterback. He has some abdominal injuries, But all these Steeler players are on the fence. I would look into that before we do anything. Let's take a look at some of the matchups. Okay, you can't ask for more than this. The Baltimore Raven offense, led by the great Lamar Jackson, against one of the top defenses in football, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens got to handle the jitters, I think. They made way too many mistakes in that first game against the Steelers. We talked about the penalties, the turnovers. They fell behind in the down and distance, and they couldn't stay on the field. They had no time of possession. And if you want to stop Lamar Jackson, keep him on the sidelines. That's the one thing Baltimore must do, is eliminate the penalties. They killed him. The Ravens do more on offense than just about any team in football. They shift, they motion, they use different personnel groupings. They'll use unbalanced lines. They really have an extensive playbook under Todd Monken, their offensive coordinator. After the bye week 2 weeks ago, boy, they looked good last week against the Giants, man. They came out humming. Lamar Jackson had 4 incomplete passes and 5 touchdowns. They are balanced. They can slam it at you with Henry. They have an array of very good receivers and tight ends, and Justice Hill's a great receiving back. But Lamar Jackson is putting together his best body of work that I have seen. It's really incredible, his statistics based on any NFL standard that you've looked at. He's got 3,580 yards passing, 34 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I mean, the only 2 guys that I could find that threw over 30 touchdowns and less than 5 interceptions was Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. So that's the kind of class that Lamar Jackson is throwing the ball with. And when you combine that with 743 yards rushing and 3 more touchdowns, good God, how is he not the MVP? I mean, it's going to be a shame. Somebody's not going to win it. But Lamar has played superb football. He needs 109 yards rushing to be the all-time quarterback rushing leader. Mike Vick, he only has a 109-yard cushion because Lamar's already got 6,001 yards rushing. But can Lamar Jackson solve the Pittsburgh Steelers? The Steelers are like the Lamar Jackson kryptonite. Jackson has really struggled, going 1-4, 8 interceptions and only 5 touchdowns. I think for Lamar to win the MVP, he's got to solve Pittsburgh in prime time Saturday. I can't wait to see him compete with this defense. Derrick Henry, what a great free agent acquisition he has been. He's got 1,474 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns, 13 on the ground, and 2 receiving. But Derrick Henry, he only plays about 50% of the plays. They haven't given him an extensive workload. He's only carried the ball more than 20 times, 5 times. But he can run the ball in a 2-back set. He's a good single-back runner. And when he's going one way and Lamar's going the other on these zone reads, it's a brutal combination. But I think Henry looks fresh. They had a bye week 2 weeks ago. His workload has not been crazy like it was in Tennessee. And when you have Justice Hill taking some critical third down snaps, that's a great combination. Justice Hill has a very good receiving route tree coming out of the backfield. He can really hurt you. He's caught 42 passes, and he can run choice takeoffs, rail routes. He's going to be a real problem, I think, for the Steelers in the passing game. And it'll be exciting to see these 2 backs go up against the Pittsburgh Steelers linebackers. Patrick Queen, the ex-Baltimore Raven, he wears number 6. He had a hell of a game against his former team just a few weeks ago. He had 10 tackles, 8 solos. He forced a fumble. He recovered a fumble, and he's an outstanding every down linebacker. The Steelers also have a rookie, number 41, Peyton Wilson. You should have seen Wilson running with Justice Hill and intercepting that ball on the sideline on that rail route. He is a fantastic coverage linebacker. Look for Peyton Wilson to be a big part of the passing situations. They'll use a Landon Roberts, number 50, with Patrick Queen to take on the big boy Derrick Henry. It'll be a great battle. The Ravens have an excellent group of receiving tight ends. I love Mark Andrews. He had his 48th touchdown catch last week against the Giants. That makes him the all-time touchdown maker for this Raven franchise. He just overtook Jamal Lewis. But Andrews had no touchdowns in his first 5 games. In the last 9 games, he's got 8 touchdowns. Andrews is a problem running routes, especially if safety Deshaun Elliott does not play. Elliott is a very good pass defender and run defender. They need Elliott to go up against Andrews in some critical situations. They also use Isaiah Likely, another very good receiving tight end. He's got 35 catches for 401 yards and 4 touchdowns. They can isolate him in the slot. He can line up as a joker at wide receiver. Likely's a talented runner after the catch as well. The offensive line versus the defensive line is going to be the story of the game, as it always is. This is a battle, man. And the left tackle of the Ravens, Ronnie Stanley, against Highsmith, number 56. That'll be a marquee matchup. Remember, T.J. Watt and Highsmith do not switch sides. For the most part, they anchor themselves left and right. So it'll be Ronnie Stanley, the veteran of the Ravens, against Alex Highsmith, who's had at least 1 sack in every one of the games he's played since he's come back. Highsmith's a hell of a player. And over here, the matchup that Baltimore's got to be most concerned with is their rookie, Rosengarten, number 70, going up against T.J. Watt. Watt has 11.5 sacks. He has had an incredible season. I think T.J. Watt is on his way to another Defensive Player of the Year award. He's 3rd in the league in sacks, 1st in the league in forced fumbles. This guy is an electrifying talent. We just got to look into his health. Is he ready to play with that ankle? Inside, Linderbaum is an excellent center for Baltimore, and he's going to have his battle with Benton, a great nose tackle, number 95 of the Steelers. He's not a pass rusher, but he's a 2-gap run defender, great pad level and hand usage. That'll be a big battle inside. Cam Hayward, he just continues to get better and better. He doesn't play the amount of snaps that he used to play, but he still has 8 sacks. He's a force against the run, and in big games, this man really revs it up. He's a premier competitor in pro football. There are some great matchups inside. And outside, beware of these young Raven receivers. 2 first-rounders. We know Zay Flowers, their leading receiver, with 66 catches, 900-plus yards. He's an excellent player. They use him on the jet sweeps quite a bit. But the emergence of Bateman, number 7, former first-round pick. He had 2 touchdowns last week against the Giants. He is flying, man. Here's a guy that had 4 touchdowns in his first 3 years. But in his last 14 games this year, he's got 6. So he and Flowers, with these great receiving tight ends, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, they make me think they should have the upper hand against this Steeler defense. But when you watch the Steelers on defense, the biggest question I have is Elliott going to play? Is Ogunjobi going to play? And is T.J. Watt playing? If they're playing, they have been the kryptonite to Lamar Jackson. They missed way too many tackles last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it allowed Philadelphia to go 10 for 17 on 3rd down. And they really struggled last week with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Both of them had over 100 yards. And if they can't handle those 2 receivers, they're going to struggle with Bateman and Flowers. They got to get healthy, and they got to pick it up against the pass. Last thing is the Steelers did a great job against Lamar Jackson in week 1. The first time they played, they mixed 3-deep zone with 2-deep zone, man-to-man, and some occasional pressures, but they did a great job of disguising coverages. They had an awesome game plan. And when they keep these Steelers in zone coverage, they all have vision on Lamar. They were able to make some great open field tackles. Minkah Fitzpatrick had 3 great open field tackles in that first game. Very important that they get off the field on 3rd down. Get Lamar off the field. Let's win the time of possession, and let's do a great job, as we have done all season, taking the ball away. Nobody punches it out better and takes the rock away than the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a fight, man. It's going to be a spar for a while. Who knocks who out? Let's find out. Okay, as we flip sides, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense and the Baltimore Raven defense have taken some time to find their identity, and they're both still a work in progress. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense the last couple weeks has really struggled. They've been lackluster ever since George Pickens, their leading receiver, has gone out with that hamstring injury. Against the Eagles, they had 163 yards of total offense. That's the fewest amount of yardage that they've had since 2010. That's not many. They had way too many penalties, which forced them into way too many third and long situations, and they got off to a slow start. They didn't make a first down in Philadelphia until the sixth possession. It was ugly. Very important that they address the time of possession. 20 minutes and 8 seconds is all they had at Philly, and that's the statistic that just doomed them. They got to get the penalty straightened out and stay on the field. This offensive line struggled last week when Philadelphia jammed the front, cover the center, cover the right guard, the right tackle, cover the left guard and the left tackle, and make them all block in a one-on-one situation. And the Steelers struggled. Somebody get beat over here, and it really caused some negative plays and penalties. Russell Wilson this year, he has come alive as a Pittsburgh Steeler, 65% passer. He's thrown for 1,900 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But they have to be ready for this Raven defense who shut them down in the red zone. Pittsburgh was 0 for 4 in the red zone. Wilson had a bad pick under pressure, and it really resulted in nothing but Boswell field goals. I think they're going to have to punch it in to win this game in Baltimore. The Raven defense has done a nice job eliminating big plays. Remember, they were the 32nd ranked pass defense. They're still at the bottom of the heap, but they haven't been giving up quite as many big plays. They have solved their safety issues. Remember, they were playing Eddie Jackson, Marcus Williams. Well, now it's our Darius Washington, number 29, who has come in and really solidified the Ravens. He's made plays in the box. He's made plays on the deep end. He's got a couple interceptions, 5 passes broken up. Our Darius Washington has really helped this Raven defense. They've also made a change at inside linebacker. Number 23, Trenton Simpson, was playing early in the season. Now I'm seeing a lot more Malik Harrison, number 40, and there's a young linebacker I like, Chris Board, number 49. So they've made changes at safety, they've made changes at inside linebacker, and they've gotten better, I think, in the last couple ball games. They clearly have the number 1 rushing defense in football. In the first outing against the Steelers, it was 3rd and 1. Pittsburgh came out in an unbalanced line. Kaboom! And then on 4th and 1, they go for it. Kapow! They knocked them out, man. You better be careful running the rock against this Raven defense. They have monsters inside. Washington, Pierce. They got a lot of big cats in there. Matt BK. I love Jones, number 98. They are a hard outfit to run the ball against. They must stay on top on defense. Don't let Russell Wilson throw one of those moon balls. And Stevens, number 21, is the corner that has struggled to defend those passes. Got to keep an eye on that. If Pickens plays, got to stay on top of George Pickens because we know that's where Russell Wilson is going. I would be surprised if the safety doesn't lean over here towards Pickens and make him throw the ball to somebody else. They are not blitzing as much as they have in the past. Remember, Rex Ryan, they had another coordinator, Martindale, come in there. They blitzed from everywhere. But right now, Orr, the new defensive coordinator, plays a more conventional style of defense. They do use Kyle Hamilton, number 14, creatively. I love Hamilton. He's a hell of a safety. He's a dynamic nickel corner. When they want to have a big nickel out there, he can walk in there and play linebacker in their dime package. He will knock you senseless. He's got great ability in space. He can cover. He made a nice interception in the end zone against Russell Wilson in the first game. Great player. 99, Owe is a young pass rusher who's got 8 sacks. He had 2.5 sacks against the Steelers, and he gave Jones, the right tackle of the Steelers, fits. He also beat Moore on the other side. But they have a dynamic pass rusher. This Owe has movement skills, man. I wish I could move like this guy. And he's fast. And Matabike is the inside rusher that the Ravens got to rev up. I called out Matabike right before the Bengal game earlier this season. My man had 3 sacks. So if you're listening to me, how about getting me 3 more? Make me look good. The key matchups in this game, let's start with the matchups up front. The Steeler offensive line is a young crowd. They have a rookie center, a rookie right guard, and that's why I'm asking Matabike, number 92, to bring his A game. It's 99 Owe over here against Moore, the left tackle, number 65, or he can beat Jones, number 77, which he did in Pittsburgh earlier this season. Van Noy is the other pass rusher that the Ravens use. He leads the club with 9 sacks. And on that Russell Wilson interception, it was Kyle Van Noy that was in Wilson's grill, forcing that errant pass. But I believe the Ravens have the firepower up front and the depth to get after Russell Wilson in some key passing situations. The linebackers, make a note here for the Ravens. Roquan Smith is back. Remember, he was hurt earlier, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they didn't really get to see much of my man Roquan Smith. Well, he's back. He's healthy. After that bye week, he is humming, man. He looked flashy. He looked like his old self against the New York Giants. And expect number 40, Harrison, or number 49, Board, to play opposite Roquan Smith at linebacker. And these linebackers are going to have to deal with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, 2 very good backs. Najee's got almost 900 yards and 30 catches. Jaylen Warren, he's got 30 catches this year. Both of these guys are very efficient, and the underneath coverage of the Ravens has struggled at times. So I'd be very conscious of Harris and Warren and their pass-catching ability. Outside, I like the matchups that the Raven corners have against this Steeler receiving corps. If Pickens doesn't play, remember, Pickens has 55 catches for 850 yards. He's a deep ball threat. Who else is going to step up for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Calvin Austin had 5 catches last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's more of a gadget receiver. Mike Williams, only 5 catches since coming over from the New York Jets. What is Mike Williams' role? Are we going to get this guy involved? He was a featured dog for the Chargers. He can't seem to find his niche yet in Pittsburgh. Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller. Who's the number 2 receiver? Who's the number 1 receiver if Pickens doesn't play? I do believe they're going to be looking for their tight ends inside. Freiermuth, number 88, is outstanding. He's got 47 grabs, almost 500 yards. And Darnell Washington had 2 really big catches against the Ravens the first time around. He's got 18 grabs for almost 200 yards. Good safeties, limited injured receivers could play into the Baltimore Ravens' hands. This is going to be a very interesting battle between Russell Wilson, a veteran quarterback, and this Raven defense who has had some issues defending the pass. But do the Steelers have the firepower to attack it? And can this Steeler offensive line handle Owe, Van Noy, Matabike and company? It'll be exciting to find out. Well, I know the Steelers have had the Ravens number, and I still think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game, but I got the Baltimore Ravens winning this game 27-17. Hey, hey, hey.